Hello, 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 and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about why processing always takes longer than we think it's going to. Okay? So in this video, I really hope to, again, bring some clarity and some validation and some ease, some sense of ease to this processing work that we're doing, to this expansion work that we're doing, and why it can take so much longer than we think it's going to. Why we can feel like we're doing the work that we're doing, like we're doing the work we should be doing. We're having breakthroughs. We're seeing things. We're processing things. We're doing it, and then it feels like, oh, what happened? I crashed again. I went down again. I got triggered again. I've had the same reaction again. I had the same flare up again, whatever it is. And we can think like, man, like I thought I already processed that. I thought I already did that. I thought I already fixed that about myself. I thought I already saw all that. I thought I felt all the feelings. I thought I did everything right. So like, what's going on? Did I miss something? Am I doing something wrong? Like not keeping my vibes high enough, or not thinking positively enough, or did I do the processing work wrong? And just all of the things that can come up on this processing path. And I would also say that if you haven't done so already, you might want to watch the video I made last week talking about why just the healing path is often so much more complex than we think it's going to be, and why it can seem like it's making things worse sometimes before it makes things better, because that'll kind of dovetail into this one too. But if you haven't watched that, don't worry, you can listen to this first and then go and watch that later. So yeah, I put the links in the description. If you're watching this on Instagram or on YouTube, you can find the links. If you're watching this live, you'll find it in my IGTV, just the last video that I made. Okay, so the two things that I kind of want to cover today are a new way of looking at the vibrational scale. So if you haven't heard of this, it's the scale of emotions, essentially, the scale of feelings that we find in the book Power versus Force. Okay, so I didn't come up with it. It's in the book Power versus Force. If you just Google the vibrational scale, you'll see a kind of cone shape with the rainbow and a scale of human emotions with a number. Okay, so kind of like detailing the vibration of each human emotion. And I know that a lot of people in the spirituality and the self-help and the self-love world look at this like a measuring stick. Okay, they look at the vibrational scale like we're supposed to be at enlightenment, which is at the top of the vibrational scale. And everything below that is a lower vibe. It's a lower vibration. And then there's lots of superstition around what being in that lower vibration means, right? Like that we're going to manifest negative things, or that we're in a victim mentality, or that we're putting out negative energy into the world. We're not conscious. We're not good enough. We haven't done our work enough. And I think a lot of it, a lot of the fear around the vibrational scale comes from thinking that if we're at any of these lower emotions, like if we're at anywhere like below love and understanding and compassion, we're bad, we're doing it wrong, we're somehow flawed and not spiritual and not worthy of love and not good enough, and we're going to manifest bad things. Like this seems to be like the main thing that people think when they think of the vibrational scale, is like, I'm going to be manifesting negative experiences, I'm going to have negative relationships, I'm going to get in a car crash, whatever it is, if I'm anywhere on the vibrational scale below these high levels. And I want today to offer a new perspective of the vibrational scale, because like even if you don't know what the vibrational scale is, I think a lot of us do carry around this spiritual idea that we're supposed to be enlightened and in a state of love and in a state of acceptance and in a state of compassion all the time. And if we're not, we're failing the spiritual journey. We're not spiritual people. We're not evolved. We're not conscious. We're not good enough. We're not seeing reality. We're not whatever. We have all these labels, and like I say, and then being afraid that we're going to manifest bad things, or that we're going to hurt people, or that we're putting out negative vibes into the world, or whatever it is that our superstition has told us. And like I said, I would like to offer a new perspective on this, where we can look at the vibrational scale as a map rather than a measuring stick. Okay? The vibrational scale is a map. It is not a measuring stick. And we'll get to that in a second. And then the second metaphor I want to talk about is understanding that our root traumas, okay, so like the things that are causing us to have cyclical experiences in our lives, right? So we all have traumas and things that we went through that hurt and that were confusing and that were harmful in some way, but they weren't like imprinting on our soul, if you want to kind of think of it like that. We've had some experiences that maybe caused some disjointed things, but the solution is actually kind of simple. Like, we're just going to see something, we're just going to realize that wasn't really true, we're going to have like a moment in time where we get something and we process it, and then it's over. Okay, so like that totally exists. There are absolutely things where there isn't this big, long, super deep core wound going on. It really is just like we had an experience, we misunderstood something, we're going to learn something new, and then it's going to change. Like thinking about like you get a little cut on your hand. Like, that's a trauma, it doesn't feel good, but the solution for that is pretty simple. Like, you're going to cover it up, you're going to put a little disinfectant on it, it's going to heal, you're going to have a little scar, and then it's not going to be a big deal, right? Versus being born with a genetic condition where your body can't do something, right? And thinking about how being born or even experiencing like a really deep, a really big injury when you were very, very young in your development, and that, like getting run over by a car or something when you were like 3 years old and it broke your hips, right? Like the consequences of that and all of the things that could come from that big accident that caused a lot of wounds when you were very young and developing. So then say they reset your bones a little bit wrong, and then you now grow with your hips a little bit out of whack, and then that causes you to have to, course correct with the way that you stand, and then that impacts your digestion, and then that impacts the way that you eat, and then that starts to impact your mental state, and then that starts to impact your relationships, and it's this whole big long thing. You see? That is more what we want to think of when we think of the cyclical thematic traumas that we have in our lives that we're going to process, right? So we might be coming, yeah, totally. We might be coming into awareness at my relationships are all messed up and I have a really messed up relationship with food. And we might be thinking that that is our trauma, and if we could just fix our relationship with food or fix our relationship with people, we'd be better. Not understanding, because we're not really cognizant of, we're not really putting together that is coming from being in pain all the time, and that pain is coming from the body's course correcting, and that's coming because the hips weren't put back together correctly, and that's happening because we got run over and our hips were broken when we were very small and developing. You see, there's like all these layers. So of course, trying to just fix the way that we are with food, when we aren't looking at all these other layers, when we're trying to fix the way we are in relationships, right? Because if we're in pain all the time, we're going to be short, we're going to be snappy, we're going to have, we're going to feel defensive, the way that the body works when we're in pain all the time, we're going to be in stress, we're going to be having all of these layers of things going on that we are going to have to process through each one of these layers before we get down to like the root of what's happening, and then even being able to shift the root of what's happening. And this is why healing and processing of these big thematic things in our lives always takes longer than we think it's going to. Because we are seeing, I have a problem in my relationships, and I continually choose the wrong partner, and this is the pattern, and no matter how much I try to change this pattern, I can't. And I'm trying so hard to change the way that I relate to the people that I'm attracted to, and I can't. And I just keep picking the same partner, and it's this whole big thing. And so I'm doing all this work about relationships. I'm trying so hard to forgive the last person I was in a relationship with, and to choose a different partner, or to whatever, but I keep winding up in these same relationships. And no matter how much work I do around relationships, I can't ever seem to fix this part of me that continues to choose the wrong partner. Or we look at our job situation and we think, I know who I'm supposed to be, I know what I'm supposed to do, or I don't know what's wrong with me that I can't figure out the right career for me, but I keep doing all this career work. I keep working on, like, why can't I figure out what my purpose is? Why can't I figure out a career that works for me? Why do I keep sabotaging myself in my career? Why do I always try stuff and fail? Why do I keep getting laid off? Why do I whatever? And I keep trying this to figure out this relationship thing or this job thing. And no matter how much work I do on it, I never really change, right? I can discipline myself for a little while. I can convince myself I'm doing the right thing for a little while. I get excited in the new job for a little while, and then this cycle happens. I have the same conflict with the boss, and then the boss lays me off, and then I get a new job, and then I do it again, and then it happens again, and it's like, seems to be no matter where I go, I have this pattern. Okay, so now, when we start to look at these patterns of things that we are going through, these patterns of relationship drama. Well, and I don't want to use the word drama because that makes it sound like we're drama, but these patterns of relationship pain and trauma, these patterns of work pain and trauma, these patterns of body pain and trauma, the patterns of money pain and trauma, right? Those are kind of like the big ones. We're going to have these, something is in our career and we're always having a problem with our career, something in our relationships, always having problems with our relationships, something with our body, we're always having problems with our body, something with our money, we're always having problems with our money. And this is the arc of our life, and it's just like this constant theme of I can't get over this. And so what I want to express here is, again, whatever is happening in your current reality, whatever you're trying to process right here, right now in your adult life, isn't the root of what's happening with you, isn't the cause of anything, right? We all think, if I just get the right job, it'll fix this. If I just figure out the right career, I'll stop being in this pain. If I just find the right partner, I'll stop being in this pain and this will get fixed. If I just find the right diet, I'll stop having this pain and my body will heal and then I'll be better. If I just could figure out how to make a bunch of money or save the money or whatever what it is with money, the pain will go away. And what we're not understanding is that this stuff that's happening in our lives right now, the partner we keep choosing, the cyclical problems in our job, the pain in our bodies, the money thing that's going on, whatever it is for you, this is the symptom. Okay. Also, I would say like the mental health issues, in the sense of like when we're cyclically depressed or cyclically anxious or cyclically like in these energetic and mental and emotional states, no matter what we do, like we're trying to fix the anxiety, we're trying to fix the depression. And when we look at our coping mechanisms and our self-sabotage and our addictions, right? We're trying to fix the binging, we're trying to fix the starving, we're trying to fix the overspending, we're trying to fix the whatever habits we have in our relationships that aren't serving us, we're trying to fix the the self-sabotage we do at work, we're trying to fix. We all think, if I just solve this issue, this thing at the surface, this thing that looks like it's the thing that's bothering me, I will be better and my life will be happy and everything else will just fall into place. Because we're not seeing that again. This, by the time it gets up here, it's like an apple tree. This is the rotten fruit, right? The fruit, the tree is bearing fruit, and it's rotten fruit. And we are trying to fix the fruit, is basically what we're doing here, right? We're really trying, and we're just thinking, if I could just make these apples not rotten, this tree would be great. I would have awesome apples, but it's just the apple. And we're not seeing that, okay, well, the rotten apple is a result of the branches having poor circulation, say. And the nutrients aren't getting to the apples, and if we look at the sap, it's messed up. And we look and we see that there's like a bug infestation, and then we look at the trunk and we see that there's rot in the trunk, and there's rot in the inner core. It's not growing properly. And then if we go down, we see that the roots are not getting enough nutrients, and then we look into the soil and we think, oh, this soil is acidic and there's not enough sunlight and all of these things. And so the fruits are not the problem. The fruits are the result of the problem. What's really going on is like there's all this stuff that has cascaded on top of itself because at the very core the soil wasn't good and the roots of the tree weren't good. And that's what we have to start to think of when we look at our processing and healing and integration path. It's that whatever's happening in your life right here, right now, today, that's the fruit. That's not the cause of your problem. That's not where your pain is coming from. There's all these other layers that you're going to process through first. Like, you're going to look at the fruit and you're going to try to process the fruit, and you're going to do that and you're going to get some insights. And then that's going to take you a little bit deeper. And then that's going to have you be able to look at the branches. And you're going to be like, oh, the branches. I never even thought of that before. And then you start to process what's going on with the branches. And then you do that. And then you're going to be like, oh, the trunk. I never even thought of the trunk before. I didn't even realize there was a trunk to this tree. Wow, okay, wow, look at this trunk and all of this stuff I have to learn about the trunk. And all the information that I got from looking at the fruit and then looking at the branches is helping me understand something about the trunk I never would have understood before. And then understanding that about the trunk and getting all this information about the trunk leads me to the roots. And oh my gosh, there's a root system. Like I literally couldn't even see that. That was under the surface of the, right? All I saw before was that there were fruit. And now there's this whole tree. And now there's not even just the tree. There's stuff under the earth that I couldn't even see. And all of this that I learned about the fruits and the branch and the trunk helps me understand something about the trunk, or the roots. And then what I understand about the roots and what I understand about it's now the environment, the entire environment that my tree is in. I didn't even see all that. And now I can get to like the root cause of what's going on. I can shift the root cause. I can shift the soil. I can shift the way that I'm treating this tree. I can treat the root rot. I can treat all of these things. And then all of a sudden, the way that the trunk goes is so much better. And then the way that the branches go are so much better. And then the fruit naturally comes out different. Because I got to the root of the problem. I got to the environment and the roots. I processed to the point where I got to what really caused the fruit to be the way that it was. But the only way I was going to figure that out was to slowly work my way back, one part of the tree at a time, down to the root, doing all this processing work backwards, and then getting that root system cleaned up, getting the environment cleaned up, and then from there, the tree is just naturally going to grow differently. The tree is naturally going to be strong so that it doesn't have that rot in the trunk. And it's naturally going to be strong so it doesn't have that infestation in the branches. And then it's naturally going to produce this fruit that's good. And you wouldn't have even had to do anything about the fruit. Technically speaking, the fruit will be a natural byproduct of that entire tree, starting with the environment and the roots being in alignment, getting what it needs. That is what the actual processing journey looks like. So that's my parable for that. I hope that makes sense, right? What we are experiencing in our life right now is the fruit. And that fruit will give you clues. It's not to say don't try to process the fruit, right? But we process the fruit, and then it takes us one layer deeper. It takes us to the branches, which we would have had no awareness of. So it takes us to, we start with the job, and then we think, oh, okay. Right. So going back to we got run over and our hips are all broken when we were 3 years old. We're starting with, I'm snappy and terrible in my relationships. So we're doing all that, and then we finally come to like, why am I doing that? Why am I so snappy and harsh? Well, I'm in pain. Oh, okay, right? Like we may even realize that, like, I didn't realize that something seemingly so disconnected from what I think my problem is having such an effect on what my problem is, on my fruits. So the branch is something that's seemingly almost unrelated, but then we start to see, okay, no, this is a relation. I get it now. It's not just that I'm being terrible in relationships for no reason. I have a reason for that. I'm in pain. And I didn't even realize that was odd because I've been in pain my entire life. It was normal to me to be in pain. But it turns out that's not normal. It turns out that has an impact. Okay, so now I'm going to look at my pain. Wow, look at that. Yeah, my digestion. I've never had good digestion. I have muscular pain. I have bone pain in my spine and in my hips all the time. Well, no wonder, right? I'm out of alignment. I walk weird. I have all this stuff going on. You see? Now we're at the trunk. And then, I got ran over when I was 3. And that was incredibly traumatizing for me, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And my bones didn't get set back right. So now I have a clear picture of what's actually going on. And I can deal with the trauma of being run over. I can deal with the trauma, because that is a huge trauma, of realizing I wasn't safe in the world, realizing things weren't how I thought they were, people didn't put me back together properly, it would have it would have created trust issues, it would have created insecurities, it would have created codependencies, and then physical stuff going on, okay, it's all this stuff. And this is why my relationships are this way. So now processing what I actually went through, this huge, big trauma, that's going to change absolutely everything, right? Maybe now I get a surgery to reset my bones because now I understand that that's what's going on. Maybe I, do my emotional processing work to process the emotional trauma of being run over that I didn't even realize was a trauma that I was carrying around all day. And I process that, and then I can fix my posture, and then I can shift the way that I'm seeing relationships, and then I can love that inner child that got run over and then wasn't helped and was in pain forever and didn't realize that wasn't a thing. And all of these things get loved back into place and loved back safe. And then all of a sudden your relationships are totally different, right? You didn't necessarily have to mentally or emotionally or spiritually get yourself to be different in relationships. You understood what you actually needed. You figured out the pain you were actually in. You integrated the trauma you had actually experienced. And then, of course, your fruits are going to be totally different. Because you weren't just choosing to be that way in relationships. The way you were being in relationships was a result of all of these other things you had been through. All of these other things you were coping with, you didn't even know you were coping with. All this other pain that was like deep in there that you didn't know was out of alignment because it happened to you so early, it happened to you so young, it was just your normal. That is the actual processing journey. Okay? And again, by looking at the fruit and then seeing the branch and then seeing the trunk and then seeing the roots and then seeing the environment, we have to go through that process. And at each phase, we're going to think, okay, I got it figured out, right? It's the apple. This is what's causing the thing in the apple. And then it's going to open us up to the branch, and we're going to be like, oh, this is it. This is what it is. We're going to process the branch, and we're going to think, I'm done. This is it. I figured it out. It was the branch the whole time. And then as we get processing the branch, we're going to see the trunk, and we're going to be like, oh my God, are you serious? There's another layer to this? Fine, okay. I'll process the next layer. I can do it. Because of what I know from the fruit and because of what I know from the branches, I'll process the trunk. I'm a little pissed that there's this next level, but fine, okay, we'll do it and then we'll get there. Because I can see that this is it. This is the end, right? Like I can see there's the ground. It's over. It'll be over after this. I'll process the trunk. We'll process the trunk. We'll feel real good. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, are you kidding me? There are roots. There are things underneath the surface. Ah! Like that's how we're going to feel. Most likely. Like, are you kidding me? There's a whole nother layer that I didn't even see that's under the surface. Ah! No! We're going to freak out. We're going to not want to do it. Right? It's going to be the unknown. That's where it's going to be like, I can't go there. Like, I don't know anyone else who's ever dealt with the roots. None of us even knew that roots existed. Everyone around me is like, you're crazy. There are no roots. Look, there's the ground. That's it. You should be done now. You processed the trunk. You went as far as all of us have ever gone. So now you saying there's roots and there's problems with roots and you have to process that. I think you're just making it up. I think you're just wallowing in it. I think you're blowing it out of proportion. You're making it up. You should be better now. It shouldn't be taking you so long. You got to the bottom of the trunk. What's wrong with you? Why is your fruit not better? Why do you not feel better? And you're going to be thinking that about yourself. And you're going to be like, no, I think there are roots under there. I think there's something under there that I have to look at. And they're going to be like, no, definitely don't. Don't do it. You're crazy. You're low vibes. You're negative. You're going to manifest bad stuff. You should be better now. Look, we're all better. All of us. We just looked at the trunk. We're all fine. I think you're making it up. And you're going to be resentful and upset that there's another layer. You're going to be unknown and scared and, oh my gosh, I don't know anyone who's gone there. And the only people who seem to have gone there seem to be miserable. And you're going to have to go there anyways. And then, once you do that, you're going to see the environment piece, the soil piece, the air piece, the stuff you kind of don't have control over. And you're going to be even more overwhelmed and scared. And people are going to be calling you crazy and not understanding because they never did it and they never went there. And part of true integration comes from this journey into the unknown, this journey into the under the surface that no one else that you know has gone there. There are very few guides for this because most people never go there. Most people get to the trunk at best. Like our most advanced spiritual teachers are trunk people. Right? But they haven't gone roots and environment. They're stopping at, sovereignty, and you just need to have a positive mindset, and now you see it, but don't deal with your childhood. Or don't deal with the systemic issues. It's just something where you just need to have a positive mindset and positive frenzy yourself or be in the present moment or whatever it is. The spirituality stops at the trunk, but doesn't take us any deeper. And then the people who are trying to take us deeper, we're afraid of them And we're afraid of the emotional processing and the anger and the resentment and the sadness and the childhood trauma and the having to comfort our inner child and all of these things. Because this is where it gets messy. And this is where it gets into, like, it's not just a behavior change I'm going to make. It's not just a mindset shift. It's like, I'm going to have to go through the process. Like, I'm going to have to go back to that little child self and re-experience that emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and then go through the whole emotional vibrational scale, which I'll talk about in a second, which I don't know how to do, and I'm going to have to find answers and new ways of being that I can't see an example for, that I don't see anyone else doing, because everyone else just went to the trunk. And we're still assuming that, like, culture is fine, and the way society is fine. And the kind of base assumptions we have about what a good life is and what a spiritual person is and what being on purpose is and what a good relationship is or what is health in the body, we're all assuming we kind of know what that is. And it's somewhere in the sphere of normal. And then we get there and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel complete. We can see that there's something deeper. We can see that there's something more. And we have to now start to fundamentally shift in ways that take us out of culture, that we don't, like I say, have a roadmap for. We don't know anyone who's done that. We don't see it. We don't get it. It's completely unknown, and we're going to have to figure it out on our own. And that's where most of us stop. We just learn some way of coping or numbing or sabotaging, or we find some way of making this good enough. Because this next part is the wilderness part, the unknown part, the alone part. We're going to have to go there, and we're not going to be understood, because it's going to be a lot of emotional dredging. It's going to be a lot of existential crises. It's going to be a lot of being angry and being sad and not being that spiritual person who has it all together and is, like, totally positive and can see with compassion everyone and everything all the time. The processing of the roots and the environment is very, very painful and very, very volatile. And we're going to now go through the vibrational scale over and over and over again. Okay, so now the vibrational scale, right? If we look at the vibrational scale, we have the shame, the guilt, the grief, the apathy at the bottom. And most people look at the vibrational scale, again, like a measuring stick. Like, how good and how spiritual am I based on what I'm feeling on this? And I'm going to try to artificially think my way, right? Like, because this is what we do in our spiritual practices, with our manifestations and our positivity frenzies, or our dissociative, I'm just going to be in the present moment, it's not about my past, or dissociative, I'm not going to connect with my inner child, or I can see that part of myself that's doing this and I see it as not me, it's not my higher self, right? Like, the part of me that's doing the things that I think are numbing and coping and addictive and self-sabotaging, that's not who I really am. That's not really me. I'll keep them at arm's length. And I'm going to keep trying really hard to be this enlightened person. I'm going to keep trying to forgive. I'm going to keep trying to have compassion for everybody. I'm going to get there. I'm going to be this positive spiritual person. And if I'm angry or if I'm sad, I have to come up with all of these reasons why that's not really real and that's not really true. And okay, that may have happened, but whatever, like, I'm over that now. And I can be mad for, like, a day, or I can be mad for, like, a night at, like, a thing, and then it's over. I'm not that anymore, right? We're using it like a measuring stick. When at the end of the day, the truth is, when we actually process our emotions, okay, when we actually allow ourselves to be at every step of the vibrational scale, that comes from power versus force, we naturally learn new pieces of information at each phase. Okay? It's like going from the apple to the branch to the trunk, to the roots, to the soil. As we climb the vibrational scale naturally, when we do not force ourselves to be anywhere that we aren't, when we stop labeling any emotional state, any mental state as wrong or not spiritual or not aware or not mature, and we simply say, this is where I authentically am. I am just sad. I am so sad about what happened. I feel completely victimized, right? Because again, so many of us have like worked so hard to tell ourselves these spiritual stories. Like, well, yeah, but like I chose it on some level. I know I chose it on some level. I'm not really a victim. I don't feel like a victim because I'm not a victim. Or, but I can see why my parents did that. I can see why they did that. I have compassion for them. I have love for them. It's okay. I'm not really angry. And then we go and do our coping mechanism. And then we go and pick that relationship again. And then we go and indulge in our addiction. And we wonder why, because we see it, we get it, we know the story. I'm not a victim. I chose this in a past life. I forgive my parents. I see what they did. It's fine. I'm holding that part of me at arm's length. It's not who I really am. I'm not identifying with it. I'm really not identifying with it. I see myself as whole. I see myself as perfect. I see myself as great. And yet I did the thing again. Why? Because you're not actually there yet. You don't have the information. You don't have the awareness. You don't have what you actually need to be able to live at that place. Because here's the thing. Again, when we authentically allow ourselves to fully embody the emotion we're actually in, that emotion contains information, awareness about what hurt, what needs we didn't get met, how and why we were traumatized. Because this is the bottom line. Again, the fact that you're coping, the fact that you're numbing, the fact that you're self-sabotaging, the fact that you're choosing the wrong partner, the fact that your body's in pain, whatever it is, that is a symptom, that is a result of you having not gotten your needs met, you learning to behave in a way that doesn't align with who and what you actually are, of you having been traumatized in your childhood, and then you didn't get to learn, grow, and evolve to be your true self. You started to adapt. So again, most of us think we know who our ideal self is. Me in this perfect relationship. Me in this perfect body. Me in this career. We all think we know where we're supposed to be. And then we can't figure out why we keep sabotaging ourselves. And we keep trying to dissociate from these parts of ourselves that can't do this thing. And what I'm here to say is, again, no, the part of you that's sabotaging you, the part of you that's in pain, the part of you that you're trying to dissociate as not you, is more authentically you. That's who you really are right now, than this person you're trying to become. You have no idea if this person you're trying to become is actually who you are. That could be purely conditioning. You don't know. And as harsh and as scary and as not fun as that might feel, if you can't naturally do it, you don't know if that's naturally you. We have to back up to where you authentically are, which is you're the sad, hurt child whose caregiver didn't care about them. And that's where you actually are. That's where you're actually creating your life from. That's the fruit you're seeing. Because that's where you actually are. You can't positive think your way out of that. You can't dissociate your way out of that. You can't try to get yourself to be something different your way out of that. That's the mechanism. That's the you that exists. That's the you that's behind the steering wheel. Okay, so the more mature, more spiritual, whatever, part of you, that gets on the self-help, that gets on the self-improvement, that gets on the self-love, that gets on the love and compassion, whatever train, can drive the bus for a week or two. You can get on the diet for a little bit. You can be in your conscious relationship for like 5 minutes. You can get the new job and do everything right for like a month. But you fall off because you're always going to eventually, the real where you actually are at is going to take over. Because that part of you didn't get to grow. That is where you are right now, okay? The most immature part of you, the most traumatized part of you is always going to be the part that is laying the foundations for your reality. So you may have these more mature parts. You may have these more developed parts that can drive the bus for a little while, like I said, but they are never going to be able to make your entire life like this, so long as you have these parts that are immature. Because these immature parts, even if your idea of who and what you're supposed to become is totally true, you need these parts. You can't become this without all of yourself going with you. You cannot become your ideal self with your ideal job and your ideal relationship and your ideal body without these parts. Your entire being is required to get there. So if you still have parts of you that are sad, that sabotage you, that cope, that numb, that get in the same relationship over and over, that do the same thing at your job over and over, that are addicted, whatever, these are the parts of you that need attention, that need love, that need to be brought up the vibrational scale. We need to accept that this is where they are right now. And the vibrational scale is not a measuring stick. It's a map. When we have experienced trauma, which again, everything that you do that is out of alignment with actually causing you pleasure and growth is due to trauma. It's unawareness. It's you didn't get your needs met, right? You learned how to fit in versus to be your real self. Your pain and pleasure wires got crossed. Consensus reality felt good even though it was against who you really are. Who you really are felt bad because it got you rejected. You don't really know who you are yet. There's all of these parts of yourself that you're not aware of yet, that got rejected, that got abandoned, that got shamed, that didn't get their needs met. These parts are in shame and guilt and victimhood. And that is reality because they were traumatized. Not because you're not spiritual, not because you're not trying hard enough, not because you're not positive thinking your way enough, not because you have negative beliefs. No, it's because of what you experienced. It's because of what you went through. And until we can start to meet these parts and not try to fix them, not try to change them, but allow ourselves to fully embody where we are. Because again, I know everyone thinks, but if I allow myself to embody my anger or my sadness or my victim mentality, I'm going to get stuck there. I'm wallowing. I'm being a victim. I'm disempowering myself. That's what the spiritual world tells you. Okay, those are trunk people. Those are the trunk people. Those are the other trunk people who were too afraid to go to their roots, which is completely reasonable because it is so scary. There's nothing wrong with trunk people. They're not bad. They're not weak. They're not terrible. This is hard and this is scary. And feeling these feelings, because it reverts us back to childhood. It's hard and it's scary, and of course we're afraid to do it. Of course we tell ourselves, and it doesn't feel good. This is the other big thing. It doesn't feel good. So of course we make up all these stories to give us a reason not to go there. We make up these stories of why our history happened the way that it did so that we kind of feel better about it so that we don't feel sad about it anymore for 5 minutes. We try to tell ourselves again, right? It was in my chart. It was in I chose this in a past life. This was for my soul's growth. I can totally see how that helped me. We tell ourselves these stories, and it might feel good for a second. But again, if you can't be there all the time, if that's not just your natural state, you're not there. Because this is what I'm saying. At each point on the vibrational scale, you learn something about the trauma you experienced that then informs your way of being now. Because here's again the real reason you always come back to the shame or the guilt or the habit. Because you're still operating from the trauma. And again, you're not going to think your way out of that. You're not going to figure out your way out of that. You're going to feel your way into figuring out, okay, why am I in pain? Really feeling that sadness. Really feeling it. And then being angry. Feeling really, really angry. And then that anger is going to help you see, oh, I'm still living in a way that goes against my true nature. And I didn't even see it. The anger is what showed me something about the way that I'm living right now that's causing me to have to cope. Okay, so then I change that a little bit. And then I become a little bit more neutral. And then I become a little bit more willing. And then I become a little bit more impassioned. And then I change this about my way of living. And I change this about my way of living. And at every point on the vibrational scale, you're not just feeling a feeling. That feeling is informing you as to something that you're doing in your current life that is keeping you in the state of trauma that you were in when you got traumatized. The reason you still feel the way you feel, the sadness, the shame, the guilt, is because you're still living like that. You don't know what's wrong. You don't know what's out of alignment. It's normal to you. You think you know what your higher ideal self is, what right is, and you're trying to do that. And it may or may not be true. But the bottom line is you're not ready to be there yet. You can't hold it because these parts of yourself aren't there yet. And by being in each emotion, you're ready to move on when you genuinely no longer feel that way because you've shifted something in your life. There will have been a revelation, there will have been something you understood, there will have been something that takes you from where you were to the next phase that you're like, oh, okay, I have to do something different in my relationship in this way. I have to put up a boundary here. I realize now that this thing that happened in my childhood really traumatized me and I have to love this part of myself safe. And then it changes the way that you are living in your current reality. Because again, that shame, the guilt, the pain that you're experiencing now is a result of like still having your hand on the burner. Right? We all, in our traumas, whatever, were born into a world where we were taught to put our hand on a burner. And the only way to actually figure this out, right? You're never going to positive think your way into having your hand not hurt so long as it's on the burner. And so long as there's pain, that means your hand is still on the burner. But we all have no idea that our hands are even on a burner and that a burner is even bad for us and that is causing pain and then that makes us cope and all these things. We all think if I could just stop taking these painkillers, my life would be amazing. But the truth is if you stop taking the painkillers, your hand's on fire. And you don't know why your hand is on fire because everyone has their hand on a burner. So then you have to start to be like, my hand's on fire. And then you have to actually feel it. And you feel and feel and feel and feel and feel until you're finally like, wait, my hand is on a burner. Oh my God, my hand's on a burner. And then you take it off. And then your hand is all singed. And it's crazy under there. But at least you realize, okay, my hand was on a burner. So now the pain goes down quite a bit because you actually took your hand off. You stopped taking the painkillers. The pain was really, really bad. It helped you realize that you even had your hand on a burner. A thing you didn't even realize was going on. So you take your hand off the burner, and then now, okay, what do I even do about this? I don't even know one single person who's taken their hand off the burner. Everyone else I know has their hand on the burner and still doesn't even know that their hand is on a burner. So now I have to figure out, okay, put this poultice on it. Put this anti-inflammatory on it. Do something with my diet. Wrap it up. That takes you to the next phase. And then it's itchy, and it's pussing, and it's healing, and that's yuck. But it's a necessary phase, and you have to go through it. And then you learn something more about yourself, and something more about your physiology. And you understand more about burners, and heat, and enzymes, and all of these things. And then the hand starts to crust over. And then you start to be able to use your hand. And that's a whole new world. And now everyone is looking at you like you're a total alien. Because not only do you not have your hand on a burner anymore like everyone else, you now start to have function in your hand. You start to have two hands. And no one knows what life is like that. And you thought all you were going to do was get off your pain meds, and then you were going to be awesome. And this person, this part of you that was addicted to pain meds, that's not who you really are. Well, it was who you really were. Because your hand was on a burner, and the only way to live when your hand is on a burner is to be on pain meds. If you're not going to figure it out. And then going off the pain meds means a whole bunch of steps where you just look crazy to everybody. And you're figuring things out as you go because it was just normal to you to have your hand on a burner. You had no awareness. No one even knows that having a hand on a burner is harmful. And then all the stuff you have to go through to heal the hand and then to have the hand start to work is something you will have never seen before. You see? But you learn something at every phase. Every phase is important. The part where it was all crusting over and all that stuff, that wasn't wrong. That wasn't bad. That wasn't a phase you could skip. That wasn't not spiritual. It was messy. Everyone else who just is like super calm because they're on their painkillers will look at you with your hand all crazy and be like, whoa, you're not as spiritual as us. Look at, we're all calm. Yeah, but they're all calm with their hand on the burner getting singed off. You eventually ended up with two hands. Like a whole other reality that they would never even be able to think about. But think about the crazy mess you had to go through in between. Right? And if we judge the part where it's all scarred up as like wrong, because I'm not calm and I'm not docile, I'm in a lot of pain and it's itchy and I don't know what's going on, and we judge it, and we try and pretend like we're calm, we're just re-traumatizing ourselves. We're stopping ourselves from learning what we need to learn. By labeling any of the reactions we're having as we're going through the vibrational scale as wrong, we traumatize ourselves and keep ourselves stuck. You might even then just think, I'm just going to put my hand back on the burner. That's what everyone else is doing. I'm going to put my hand back on the burner and keep taking the painkillers because I don't want to be not spiritual and not calm like everyone else. That's what we're doing. So this is why it takes so much longer to process than we think it's going to. Because it's about shifting things that are so normal to us and so normal to our conditioning and so normal to everyone we know that we don't even see what we don't see what we don't see. And when we allow ourselves to actually authentically embody the emotion we're in, that is how we get the information. You let yourself be angry, and that anger is going to awaken you to like, oh, there's a burner. That's what the anger is doing. And then you take it off, and then you're sad. And the sadness awakens you to the scars. You would not understand the scars unless you let yourself be sad. And then you get into indifference and pride and all these things, and everyone's judging you. That's the part where there's the scars. And everyone's judging you because you're not enlightened. Well, they aren't enlightened either. They're numb. They're lower than you on the vibrational scale, if you're really going to use it as a measuring stick, which I wouldn't, because of course they are, because they're scared and it's not their fault. But that's really what's happening. They're not actually enlightened. They're numb. They're using their spiritual practices as a coping mechanism to not feel, so that they don't have to go through this process. Okay? I can't tell you how many times I was judged. And you're in your victim mentality. And you shouldn't be so angry. And you shouldn't be so sad on my processing journey. And I am so glad I was just like, you know what? Whatever. If I'm angry forever, then I guess I'm just not spiritual. But I can't pretend that I'm not angry. And I was scorched earth angry about a lot of things. And then I was sad. And I felt victimized. And I let go of all the stories about how it was good for my growth and blah, 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 everything that I went through. And I just let myself be like, no, this fucking sucked. I didn't want this body. I didn't want the parents that I had. I didn't want to have to go through everything that I went through. I don't care what was in my chart. It just really sucked. And I'm sad, and I'm angry, and I'm just going to be mad that people were shitty. And I let myself fully embody that, completely. I stopped trying to pretend I was spiritual in somewhere I wasn't. And I let myself do it for longer than I thought I was going to. I really was like, maybe I'll just be this way forever, and that's fine. I'm just not a spiritual person, I guess. I don't have compassion for them right now. I don't see the higher wisdom in it. I don't care. And I let myself, and I let myself, and I let myself. And then one day, I realized I had changed a lot of things about my life because of that. Right? When I stopped trying to be spiritual and I let myself feel how I feel, I was like, okay, well, kind of fuck this. I'm going to stop doing this stuff. I'm going to stop listening to these people. I'm going to stop acting like this. I'm going to stop apologizing for myself. I'm going to do some of these different things with my diet, even though everyone's going to judge me. I did a whole bunch of changes. I made a whole bunch of changes. And eventually, I realized, wow, I really got myself out of my conditioning. Like, I changed my entire life. I've changed everything about my life. From where I was when I woke up, as in when I was born, to where I am now. There's nothing the same. And all of a sudden, I don't have pain and resentment about my past anymore. I didn't try to not have pain and resentment. I didn't try to have compassion for my caregivers. I didn't try to forgive. I don't even care. Like, at this point, I don't need to tell myself a story about what it means or how it was for my soul's growth or whatever. I have a life that works for me. I figured out all the things that were hurting me about my conditioning. I changed them because I let myself be upset enough to change. And then now I naturally just don't feel that way anymore. I'm not trying to not be upset at my caregivers. I am just not upset at them anymore. And it's because I'm no longer living the way that they taught me to live. I'm not being harmed by them anymore. I didn't have to try to forgive. When I was out of harm's way, when I wasn't being damaged anymore, there was nothing to be angry about. And now I see they didn't do it on purpose. They literally couldn't have done anything different. And it's like, again, I'm not trying to not be upset with them. I'm not trying to see them in their light. I just do. It's natural. There's no part of me that's fighting with that. Do you see what I'm saying here? I got there. The vibrational scale was a map. I let myself be at every step. Every step gave me information, which caused me to change my life in a little bit of a ways so that I was no longer being damaged. And now I have two hands, so of course I'm not upset about it. Because look, I get to live a life with two hands. I'm not in pain anymore. I didn't have to try to forgive. And so long as I still had scars, and so long as I still had stuff going on, I was upset. because I was in pain. And that was real. And I needed to support and love and nourish and just accept that that's where I was. And if I never changed, that was fine. I was just going to love and support. And what do I need? And every step of the way where I didn't say, you're not supposed to be angry. Be happy. Instead of that, I said, okay, I'm really, really angry right now. What do I need? What do I want? What am I angry about? And I was like, well, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to talk this way. I don't want to have to be this way. Okay, so stop. And then all of a sudden I'm not so angry anymore because I changed the thing that was making me angry. And the only way that I discovered that it was even making me angry or was even a thing I could change is because I accepted that I was angry. I had to accept that I was angry. And then that anger showed me something I was angry about. And then I could change the thing that I was angry about. And then I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't just become angry. I was angry for a reason. And when I fixed that reason, I wasn't angry anymore. So if you're still angry, there's still a reason you're angry. If you're still sad, there's a reason you're sad. If you're still doing your relationship pattern, you're coping, self-sabotage, numbing, there's a reason. And you got to let yourself be where you are at the journey. Open your perspective. You're doing it for a reason. What are the needs not being met? Where were you traumatized? Where were you told you have to be something you aren't? Where were you told that you can't be something that you are? All of these things. This processing takes longer than we think it will. Because the fruit is not why. The fruit is a result. And the true why is be under the surface and no one even knows that it's a thing that exists. Everyone else just thinks this is normal and you should be able to be normal like all the rest of us. And you got to be spiritual and don't be angry and don't be sad and don't all these. Well, if you are those things, it's because there's a reason you're being harmed. You're still living in a way that you were taught to live that's hurting you right now. And the only way you're going to figure that out is by feeling your feelings. You have to let yourself feel the sadness before you're going to figure out why you're sad. You have to let yourself feel the anger before you're going to figure out why you're angry. And then you're going to do this for every step of the tree, right? So you're going to do it about your relationships. You're going to go all the way through the vibrational scale around your current relationships. And you're going to get to enlightenment. And then that's going to just open the door for the whole process to start again around the branch. You're going to process your relationships, and then that's going to lead you to seeing, oh, this thing that happened in my high school days. So now I have to go through the whole process of this with this incident in my high school days. And then you'll get to enlightenment about that, and then it's going to open the door to this thing that happened to you in your elementary school days. And then it's going to open the door to like, whoa, this thing that happened to you in your childhood. And then how that whole system is the whole system. And now what do you need to change about the way that you were taught to live as a human being in the system to suit who you really are? And you go through the vibrational scale from victimhood all the way to enlightenment about your current relationship, and then the high school thing, and then the elementary school thing, and then the childhood thing. So it's not even, right? You go all the way through the vibrational scale, you get to enlightenment about your current relationship, and you think you're done, and then it takes you to a memory of something else. And then you do the whole thing with that, and then it takes you to a memory of something else. And then it takes, so you see, the vibrational scale is a map. And you have to go through it at every part. And it's going to eventually take you down to the root of where you were at. And you're going to get, when you get to the root, you're going to understand why you couldn't have just gotten to the root. Because all of us are going to be like, well, I want to skip all that. I want to just get to the root. I want to just go to the childhood trauma and fix that. You're not going to be able to. Doing the processing of the fruit, and then processing the branch, and then processing the trunk, and then processing the roots is building your vessel, building your strength, building your capacity and your awareness to be able to process the root. If you tried to go to the root right now, you don't have this the tools or the foundation or the awareness to be able to do that. You have to let yourself be where you are. So whatever emotion you're in, about whatever phase of your journey you're processing, you gotta be there. Learn everything you can learn about that, and the process will naturally take you. If you fully embrace where you are and say, what am I learning here? What do I need here? What's going on with me here? Each phase will take you. You won't have to force yourself to get to enlightenment. You won't have to force yourself to get to forgiveness or compassion or understanding. You will naturally get there. You won't have to force yourself to process your childhood trauma, to see what the root was. You just got to follow it. So if right now all you can see is your thing in your relationships right now with your boyfriend, process that. It will take you deeper. If you really, really question it and open yourself to what's going on here, it will open you to the next layer of awareness, which will open you to the next layer of awareness, which will open you to the next layer of awareness. You're not going to get there right now. And each step you take gives you the strength to do the next step. Without the step you're on, you can't do the next step. You can't do 10 steps from now. You can only do this step, and it will give you what you need to do the next step. So you're going to go through the whole vibrational scale. Every trauma leads to a deeper understanding, leads to a deeper understanding. I hope all of this helped you I hope the parable was good. All right? But you don't have to force it. You can't force it. Stop trying to dissociate from the parts of yourself that you feel aren't your higher self. They are. They absolutely are. Every part of you is a part of your higher self. If it's hurting, if it's acting in ways that are immature, if it's acting in ways that are harmful, it needs attention and love so you can understand what that part of you needs so that it can grow. You're not going to get rid of that part. That part of you isn't bad. It's not broken. It's immature, traumatized, and didn't get what it needed. And you can't become your higher self without that. This part of you is integral to this part of you. What you want will only happen when this part of you can come along. So you got to go get it. There is no dissociating from it long enough that you become this. That's like dissociating from your body long enough that, like, right? If your arm is broken, you're not going to just cut off your arm. You're an athlete. You want to do the rings, say. You're not going to become an Olympic athlete who does the rings by getting rid of your broken arm. Because that's what's stopping you from being able to do it right now. No, your arm is not what's stopping you from being able to do it right now. The fact that your arm is broken is what's stopping you from being able to do it now. If you cut off your arm, you're probably not going to get the Olympic medal of the rings. You need that arm. So don't dissociate from it. Go heal it. Get it what it needs. Then you will be able to do the rings. Okay? Okay, that's enough metaphors. I've metaphored myself silly. Okay, so that's that. I hope that was helpful. I hope that clarified some things. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things, I guess. Join the mystery school. And I will see you in next week's video. Okay? Mwah.